A judicial investigation is underway into the deadly shipwreck off the coast of Chios, which claimed the lives of 15 migrants. Greek police arrested a 31-year-old Moroccan national who was identified by Afghan passengers on the boat as one of the smugglers. The arrested man is being treated under guards and will be brought before the investigating magistrate on charges of facilitating illegal entry, disobedience, and causing a shipwreck. Meanwhile, a large-scale search and rescue operation to locate any missing persons has been completed, with Coast Guard vessels and helicopters participating. The search results were negative. According to the Coast Guard's official announcement, the speedboat carrying the migrants was found traveling without lights. The operator failed to comply with the lights and sound signals, accelerated and collided with a patrol boat, resulting in the speedboat capsizing and sinking. The European Commission states that it's closely monitoring the incident and is in constant communication with the Greek authorities.
Every life lost at sea is a tragedy. At the hand of smugglers, too many people risk their lives and lose their lives. And this is exactly what we're working on to prevent. And this is also why our work with partner countries is so important.
A total of 22 injured people are being treated at the hospital in Chios, including 10 children. 2 pregnant women are being treated and are out of danger, but they lost their babies.
The Council of Europe's Secretary-General Alain Berset told Euronews that he understands the concerns behind calls to constrain the European Convention on Human Rights over migration. However, he said the method they used was wrong. Last year, 9 European countries published a joint letter calling for a reinterpretation of human rights laws to facilitate migrant deportations. Berset reiterated his criticism of their approach.
It is clear that migration is an issue and a concern in the majority of the member states. And if it is a concern, it is only logic that we are able to have some platforms where it is possible to address this at the political level. But I was clear with this intervention, this letter, the way they chose to act is wrong. It is not possible and not good to start making political pressure on the court. Yeah. What would you say if, when a tribunal in a country is taking a decision, if it is not in the sense what the government was expecting, that the government will make a pressure and say, please change your decision?
When asked whether reviewing the convention could be a slippery slope, Berset warned that it could embolden other governments to roll back human rights. He stressed that caution should prevail as talks continue at a political level.
What will happen now with migration? It will be possible for other countries to make the same, to choose the same way, maybe to put in discussion other rights. You know, I also told this to some of the exponents. They wanted to have migration discussed, and I was just telling them, okay, at the political level, but we must be really careful, because we have maybe other countries ready to open the same kind of discussion on the rights, and maybe then we won't agree about this.
Berset convened an informal ministerial conference on the matter in December, and a political declaration is expected in May 2026. However, Berset said there is not yet a consensus on what, if any, changes should be made.
Spain and Portugal were again hit with severe weather brought by Storm Leonardo, which battered the Iberian Peninsula on Wednesday, causing floods and forcing thousands of evacuations. In Portugal, a man in his 60s was killed after being swept away by the current while attempting to drive across a flooded area. In Spain's Andalusia, 3,500 people were evacuated, as hundreds of soldiers were deployed to assist with rescue services. Schools were closed and trains were cancelled across the region. The storm brought added difficulties for Portugal, already reeling from last week's Storm Kristen, which killed at least 5 people and injured hundreds. Emergency services were still dealing with power outages, falling trees, and landslides when Storm Leonardo hit the peninsula, the Civil Protection Authority reported. The service had deployed more than 11,000 people, and around 200 residents were evacuated in central Portugal on Wednesday. Israeli strikes pounded Gaza on Wednesday, killing at least 24 people in one of the deadliest days for Palestinians since a ceasefire took effect in October. Health officials said 3 children were killed in the latest strikes, including 2 babies and an 11-year-old girl. An on-duty paramedic and several women were also killed, they added. Israel said its strikes, which hit multiple tent camps across Gaza, were a response to militant gunfire and killed 3 militant leaders. While the ceasefire attempted to halt the ongoing war, it has been repeatedly disrupted by deadly Israeli strikes. At least 556 Palestinians, half of whom were women and children, have been killed by Israel since the ceasefire took effect. Israel's military says 4 of its soldiers have been killed by militant gunfire. Meanwhile, parts of the ceasefire are moving forward. On Monday, Israel opened the Rafah border crossing to Palestinians in the south of Gaza, although passage has been minimal. Other key elements of the ceasefire appear to have stalled, including the deployment of an international security force, the disarmament of Hamas, and the reconstruction of Gaza.
The last remaining bilateral treaty between the U.S. and Russia limiting strategic nuclear arms expires on Thursday, leaving the 2 countries with no control over their nuclear arsenals. The new Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty, or New START, was signed in 2010 between then-President Barack Obama and his Russian counterpart Dmitry Medvedev. Under the deal, the 2 countries agreed to drastically reduce their nuclear force to 1,550 warheads and no more than 700 missiles and bombers to be maintained for combat use. In September, Russian President Vladimir Putin signaled his readiness to extend the agreement to avoid provoking another arms race.
Россия готова после 5 февраля 2026 года продолжить в течение 1 года придерживаться центральных количественных ограничений по договору о СНВ. Полагаем, что данная мера станет жизнеспособной только при том условии, что США будут действовать аналогичным образом.
U.S. President Donald Trump, shortly after returning to the Oval Office, expressed initial intent on extending the agreement.
I'm going to have that conference primarily with China and Russia because those are the 2 that really are out there. And we're going to have them spend a lot less money, and we're going to spend a lot less money. And I know they're going to do it. They agreed to it. We were talking about denuclearizing, and President Putin and I agreed that we were going to do it in a very big way.
He has since endorsed a more carefree approach in an interview in January, brushing off its imminent expiry, saying, quote, "If it expires, we'll sign a better agreement." Trump has recently also argued for China to be included in any new deal, seeing as it has the 3rd most weapons after Russia and the U.S. Russia has also called for France and the UK to be up for negotiation, a suggestion that was rejected by London and Paris, especially since Russia launched its war on Ukraine.
I guess people will enjoy the performance as we will all do, because, you know, art is something very special. It can be mysterious, it can be inspirative. The work that Matt has done is a very unique piece of art. He combines human movement with all the hidden information behind architecture, and universe, as he called it, the hidden order information. And from a storytelling perspective, for me, it was hard to follow the path Matt was drawing. And at the end of the preview, I realized there's nothing to understand but to enjoy. Humans are meant to create and enjoy art, but not necessarily to understand it.
And we get a lot of questions about people wanting to see the projection mapping throughout the year. So that's also one of the reasons why we wanted to create a space inside the house that could host contemporary art, so we could extend the time that this projection's happening, and also bring the dialogue across the interior and exterior of the city. So we try and really document all of the projects and create and share that on our social media. We have a huge social media community that's quite engaged. Even we get a lot of messages from Argentina. That's kind of the biggest audience we have online, which is kind of weird considering that it's so far away, yet the engagement with Gaudí is still there. And also we're hoping that with contemporary we can later down the road take it outside of the house and show Gaudí's work in a way that can reach many millions more outside.